I'm Amanda.
I'm Jessie. In this podcast, we talk about the joys of motherhood as well as the experiences that have altered us along the way.
We've created a safe space to talk about the hard and unconventional alongside the beauty, and we want you to feel confident in the decisions that you make as a mother.
Welcome to the Motherhood Collective Co.
Let's talk.
Do you want to see a funny video really quick?
Yeah.
Joe Biden is asleep. Kamala is at a dance party with Beyonce. 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 Dance party with Beyonce. Dance party with Beyonce. Dance party with Beyonce. Dance party with Beyonce.
I watched it like 3 times. I'm like, why are you so good at dancing?
I know, it's enjoyable.
Beyonce.
Oh, man.
Also, Trump just cracks me up. I've been watching like so many of his things on, because like TikTok Live just has, you know, wherever he's at, like every
like Instagram Live,
like every rally that he has, and I just like die. Like part of why I want him to be president so badly is just so that I can enjoy all of the political stuff.
I was gonna say by the time this is out,
maybe
but it won't. It'll be the next day after this is out. The next day,
I'm like so excited. I like have so much hope that he will win, but I also did last time. So
yeah, I know. I keep trying to tell Brady, presidents are selected, not elected. Don't get your hopes up. We don't know what's going to happen.
But he was at one point, so that also gives me hope.
Yeah.
Like, but I just love listening to him talk. Like, and I just feel like he's like really, I don't know. I get such icky feelings when I listen to Kamala, and with
because
Trump,
she's a chameleon.
Like, yeah,
she just blends into wherever she's at. She doesn't have a real bone in her body. Did you see when at one of her rallies, someone said like crisis king, and she was like, you're at the wrong rally. And then the very next interview she did, she's like, I pray every day, sometimes twice a day.
And she was like stumbling over all of her words, trying to like, somebody said, somebody posted it and was like, when you hear a drunk speech, like a drunk groomsman speech at a wedding, because she's up there, she's like, I was raised this way. Like she was just stumbling over all her words. She had no idea what to say. And I'm like,
yeah, like I can respect someone who's different than me if they're just going to be who they are.
Yeah, totally.
Like you don't have to think all the same things as me, but don't try to like blend into the crowd just for like likes or votes, I guess in that case. It's a bigger deal than likes. But welcome back to the Motherhood Collective Co.
Welcome.
Jesse and I were just talking about Donald Trump. No. And I was telling Jesse that I listened to the Joe Rogan podcast with Donald Trump's like 3.5 hours long.
So good.
And something that Joe Rogan said was, oh no, it wasn't even Joe Rogan that said it. I think I was just watching something on Instagram and they were talking about how scary it is that our freedom of speech is no longer protected, that every news media you turn on is just propaganda. Do you remember when we were little learning about like North Korea and South Korea and how they're whoever he was,
North Korea, Kim Jong-un,
controls all the media. Everything that they get to watch is propaganda.
I think that's his name.
Literally, that's what we're living right now. Outside of like, yes, we have TikTok, which I don't think is as censored as Instagram and Facebook, right? Am I right on that?
That's him, yeah.
And we have like a few independent medias coming out that will give you just straight facts. But like the majority of people will just turn on their news channel, especially Gen X, boomers, and that's just
liberals.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'll shut up.
I
actually I was voice memoing Amanda yesterday, and I'm like, I actually don't consider myself a super political person. Like, in fact, I actually try to like stray away from those conversations. But I think when there's just like so much going on around the election, and you really start to see people's true colors, it just like makes you, and I'm not even saying like see people's true colors based on who you're voting for. It's more about like people's opinions behind why they're voting the way that they are. Yeah. And when everybody's opinions like start surfacing, I think there's just something about it that's like, I don't know, it just like makes you want to speak up, you know? And not even in like, I don't even feel the need to speak up in a sense to change other people's minds. I feel the need to speak up in the sense that I think that we're like the silent majority. And the reason that like we're not speaking up is because there's just a lot of hate.
Yeah, you don't want to be canceled. You don't want to, not even,
you don't want your house to get lit on fire.
You don't want to get hurt.
Yeah, people are like, why do we only see Kamala signs everywhere that we drive? And it's like, because if you have a Trump sign in your front yard, like you're going to get vandalized.
It's election day tomorrow when you're listening to this, so go vote. I did see, so I've been thinking about it all day, and it's kind of made me, sorry, I'm just double checking that we're still going, kind of made me sick to my stomach. So one of the things we're voting on in Colorado is to make abortion legal up to 9 months, which I don't know why that's even something that wants to be talked about. But I saw somebody who I know who is a birth worker post this on their stories, and they were talking about, does freedom of, or my body, my choice apply to people like wearing masks? And this particular person was like somebody who worked in a hospital who didn't want to be vaccinated against the flu, but also didn't want to have to wear a mask. And she's like, I just want your honest opinions. Does that extend? And she like posted screenshots of what people were saying. And somebody said, somebody said, it doesn't affect anybody if I get an abortion. It affects everybody in the hospital if you don't wear a mask. So it has no effect on anybody else but yourself if you abort a whole human being. But if you don't wear a mask, that's affecting everybody. Well, I get the point. Yes, so not wearing a mask in a hospital when you're not vaccinated against the flu, whatever. I get her point there. But to hear the words, yeah, that doesn't affect anybody but you. There's a serious like disconnect there.
It makes me actually want to throw up.
I've been thinking about it all day. I think I looked at that this morning before I left, and I'm just like,
well, you know what picture just came to my mind when you said that is when I was pregnant with Ledger, and the day I hit 6 weeks. So we're talking 2 weeks after a positive pregnancy test, 14 days, and really technically 7.
Yeah.
Your baby starts having a heartbeat. But at 14 days, I could see it via an ultrasound abdominally. So think of how strong a little heartbeat has to be seen abdominally through an ultrasound at 6 weeks. Yeah. And it was just this little flicker of a heartbeat. Yeah. And that's like the first thing that starts happening with them. Yeah.
Well, and do you know what's interesting is the book, you know, the book Dana wrote. What is that book called? God Made You, or
God Made, God. Isn't it just God Made You, or God?
I don't know. God Made You on Amazon by Dana Riley. It's a cute little board book. And in there, and she gives a scriptural reference. It says, God knew you even before your beating heart. I don't know. Whatever your stance is on abortion, please don't say it doesn't affect anybody. You can be for it, whatever, but don't say it's not affecting anybody else. You know what I mean? There's a whole human being whose life's being taken away, so we don't want to say it's not affecting other people, because it is. You can agree with it or disagree with it, but you can't say it doesn't affect anybody else but the person getting the abortion, because that is absolutely ridiculous. Because if I don't know, let's think of some of the most influential people in the world. Freaking Elon Musk right now. What if his parents have had an abortion? Would you say that wouldn't have affected anybody? Would have affected billions of people all over the world. And him.
I just can't. I can't. I actually feel speechless that there is even, it feels so like, I know you hate this word. It feels demonic that people are actively fighting to have the right to kill. Yeah. That's what it is. It's like, why are we so passionate? It's not about your body. Yeah. It's about another body.
And you can probably guess my opinions on this. I don't think this is a problem with abortion. I think it's actually a problem with sin of, we don't want to accept the fact that the Bible says you should not be having sex before you're married. Black and white, don't argue with me on it, because that's actually a sin.
There's so many layers. It's like, if you don't want to have a baby, don't have sex. If you do want to still have sex, use protection. If you and if you do get pregnant, then like there are other options, but I just cannot. And my mom, so she actually used to work at a center. I'm going to like totally butcher this, but basically she like provided counseling to moms before they got an abortion. Yeah. And she just shared with me, like, she actually found out, I think she took a pregnancy test from the clinic to find out she was pregnant with me or something. And I'm like, so sorry if I'm getting all of these details wrong, but I'll clarify with her later. But I do remember specifically her telling me stories about how that literally, religious or non-religious, it never, ever, ever leaves you. When you do something like that, like you always carry that with you. And I don't know, God's grace covers everything, and I'm not God, but I just cannot empathize with somebody fighting solely for that right. Yeah. I just can't. I do not get it. I really don't get it. There's so many,
especially like why up to 9 months?
Yeah.
That's what I'm, and I will say, like, whenever I had my miscarriage, I hemorrhaged and I birthed my baby out of my body, and then I had to have a DNC because my body was not clotting. Like, I just kept hemorrhaging. So they did an emergency DNC. Baby was not even in my uterus at that point. Baby was passed, gone, like literally physically out of my body. Every bill that came in was for an abortion. So there are a lot of arguments saying, well, if abortion was illegal in Colorado, I wouldn't have had that procedure.
Such BS.
So
they're not equatable.
Why are we not fighting for like medical determination? Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely. I mean, my miscarriages were noted as a spontaneous abortion. Yeah. That was the wording. Spontaneous abortion. So,
and like ectopic pregnancies is also like an argument. Again, why aren't we fighting for...
But I also feel like that's misinformation. Like when people were like spamming the internet and they were like, if you ban abortion, you're not going to have care for when you have like they are not synonymous. That was just complete like misinformation and BS. I'm sorry. If you have a miscarriage and you're hemorrhaging and you go to the hospital, they're not going to say, sorry, abortions are banned. It's not an abortion. And that's, I went on to my, did you see when I posted about this on my Instagram? I got so fed up and I was like, let me just clarify something. Abortions and miscarriages could not be more different. No. A miscarriage is something that is most often, I'm going to what's the word? Generalize. So people just take that with a grain of salt. Miscarriages, through my viewpoint, my experience, my worldview, are often the result of a baby that was wanted, that was tried for, that was people were excited to have, that passed away, that died in utero, and the parents are left to grieve that situation. It was a baby that was wanted that died. An abortion is a baby that was not wanted, that was killed. There's such a big difference. And so like, I think that was just like a fear mongering movement of like, let me just rope in all these other people who might be afraid if they have a miscarriage and they won't be provided health care.
Yeah, that's true. I don't know.
Because it's just not accurate.
Yeah, it feels sick. And it feels, and that was even on my mind again, because that person said it doesn't affect anybody but you. So be for it, be against it, whatever, but please do not ever say those words, because that does not make any sense. You're literally taking the life away.
If you're for it, just please literally never try to have a conversation with me about it, because there's just not a lot of things. Like, I think the biggest thing I'm most passionate about is just the innocent, whether that be animals or children. Like
people that don't have a voice.
They don't have a voice. And like they have nobody to protect them and look after them. And it just like the innocent shatters my heart in ways that like literally nothing else can. So it's just really sad.
It is.
Did I tell you that my vet, who's also your vet, when I went to go in for Benny's appointment last week, she said that she had a litter of puppies who came in with rabies recently. You want to know the terminology she used? She said she had to destroy them. And she didn't even like flinch when she told me that.
I don't like her anymore. This past 2 weeks have been completely... Is she like on the spectrum or something?
I don't know. I'm not even going to share like what I'm going through personally with her, but that when you can look at when you can look at somebody, when you can be on the phone with somebody who's hysterically crying, aka me, and not provide even an ounce of kindness, warmth, empathy, or reassurance, I question everything about you as a human. I don't care how clinical you are. I don't care what degree you have. Like, could we be a human being? But then when I came in for my appointment, after I already had this knowledge, and she tells me that, and I'm like, that's the wording you're going to use?
Did you say something to her?
I my stomach like fell out of me. I was like, on what world do we speak that way about anything living?
Yeah.
So anyways, I don't remember what I said. I think I just kind of froze up, but
we've got questions.
Yeah.
Oh man, I have to scroll all the way back up.
Sorry.
I'm going to go find them. So sorry. Give me
my
just
phone's at like 4%.
Sec. We've got the rest of your anonymous questions. We'll do our best to get through them. Okay. I'm going to actually ixnay these holiday ones because I would love to have a full-on holiday episode.
We should do that.
So if you posted an anonymous question and is asking about anything holidays, we are going to table those until we do our holiday episode, which will be coming in the next, I don't know, few weeks. I do feel bad we didn't answer the Halloween one because this is coming out after Halloween.
We could still talk about it quickly if you want.
And I someone asked us, sent us a DM, and I wonder if it was the same person. How do you celebrate Halloween? I'm not sure if I'm into trick-or-treating for kiddos, but unsure of alternatives. I don't even think this is a question about like, do you celebrate Halloween? It's how do you celebrate Halloween? Because maybe her kids are really little. And I celebrate, I don't even like to use the word I celebrate Halloween. Noah picks out a costume. We do our church trunk or treat. We do my mother-in-law hosts every year a big grandkid party that like family flies in for. And it's so much fun. She just has all these games and scavenger hunts and everybody dresses up and she cooks the kids a Halloween dinner and she lets them sit at the nice fancy dining table and all the adults are kicked out into the other room. It's just cute. So we do that. And then honestly, after that, it's always the weekend before Halloween. I'm like done with Halloween. Like right now, like tomorrow's Halloween. I still have to do all of that.
Yeah.
But this year I'm kind of excited because we're doing my neighborhood group, my dinner group. We're having dinner and throwing a party for the kids. So we're going to do crafts. We're going to do games. We're going to let the kids go out because all of us have little kids and we're like, we don't really care to go around knocking on doors, asking for candy that we're just going to give away. So we're going to hit a few houses just for the fun of it. Last year, if you're someone who doesn't like a bunch of candy like me, we did the Switch Witch, which was fun. I went and bought some Yum Earth candy, let Noah have like, I think we said 10 pieces and he was excited about this. I'll say, I'm not trying to like ruin my kid's childhood. We left his candy on the front porch and the Switch Witch took his candy and left a toy and he loved that. So
that's adorable.
But Jesse,
I feel like
you've come to the conclusion.
Yeah, we just don't do it. And I feel like I finally have gotten to the point where like for the past few years, I've just been wrestling with it so much. And I've been like, my biggest fear in communicating that is that I don't want other people to feel like bad or judged or that they're doing something wrong or that they're missing the mark. Like I literally just texted my friend, like, please send me, like her whole family's dressing up for Halloween. I'm like, please send me a picture. I can't wait to see, you know, like, and so I think that's why for a while I've been like, I don't know. I'm like so worried about offending people. And the past few days, I feel like I've been with the support of like some other people that are like feeling similarly. I was just like, no, we're just not going to do that.
Yeah.
So now my mission is to find something
to do
that would be a fun tradition.
What book did we read where they talked about what they did on Halloween? It was like fall festival or like they cooked.
Oh,
on Halloween night.
Was it the Life Giving?
Maybe it was the Life Giving Home.
I read something about like a gratitude tree or something. But then also like somebody said it could be like the kickoff to Christmas because it's like the next day is Christmas.
Literally, do you know what I do? As soon as we put the kids to bed, we put up my main Christmas tree and we watch a Christmas movie.
Yeah, like one of my friends said she just has like a Grinch marathon with her and they have like all these like Grinch themed treats.
Start
and, like,
Christmas.
They just kind of start Christmas. So I don't know. I guess we have like 24 hours to figure out what we're going to do.
That's okay.
Or just like
whatever.
If ever evolving. But it feels good to finally be like, okay, that's just what it is. And like, that's it.
Okay. What is something that you are actively trying to improve in your parenting?
I don't know. A few things come to mind. I used to be really good when I just had Sunny about playing with her. Like I would just sit on the ground with her and I would set a timer for an hour every single day after I grabbed my coffee, and I would play with her in her playroom. And now I feel like things are so spread out that that's not always a priority.
Yeah, you've picked up a lot of responsibility since then. Homeschooling, bigger house, another kid.
Yeah.
All the things.
And I remember having those like touch points with like Sunny and both the dogs every day between, you know, playing or walks or whatever. And I'd like to get back to that, I think. And then also just like perspective and awareness, I think is something I'm always working on, of like just challenging myself at every corner about what's the most important thing in that moment. And it's never what I like want to do, you know, like my inclination to like go watch this video or go do this or go do this. I don't know, whatever. I'm like, that's just not as important as like my kids are.
Yeah.
So
we're doing a lot right now with Lily's nervous system and somebody, and this is like so recent, and this was just said to me today. So when you say actively, like this is what I've been thinking about all day. She said, oh, Lily's using your nervous system. She can't rely on her own right now because Lily's been kind of in fight or flight for a bit. So when she said, oh, she's using your nervous system as like a home base, as a calming point, which I think babies do, but she's maybe doing it a little bit extra. And I just had the thought like, oh, girlfriend, my nervous system's not the nervous system to be a part of. Because my nervous system is so tense and so chaotic. So I feel like all day long I've been having like every few minutes, I'm like, okay, I need to breathe. Like I have been holding my breath for the last hour and I need to just take a deep breath and like, so I think grounding my nervous system is something I'm going to be working on actively for the next few weeks to try and lend
I've
her
been
some
thinking
calm.
about something that you said. You said you never sit down throughout your day.
I don't.
And I wonder how you would, but I wonder how you would feel if just even for like your 3 meals a day, if you just like sat down with your food and you took like 4 deep breaths, ate your food, and just like gave your body a moment to just be like, I know, I'm going to nourish my body. I'm going to take deep breaths. And like, cause I just thought I haven't stopped thinking about that. When you said like, you never sit down throughout the day, I'm like, you must be so tired because that's like
legit. And then I don't
that's
sleep.
a lot. Yeah.
I'm not even saying that just as a joke. Like
I
honestly do not sit down unless I'm driving my car. So, and like I said, I feel like I am somebody who lives in sympathetic all the time. And I think that's from like a passive trauma from sexual abuse and, you know, things that I've tried to heal that will be a lifelong healing journey. And I just think my nervous system's a mess. So when that, whatever we're going to call her, said that today, I was like, oh, I should probably work on that. If she's using me as like regulation, I maybe need to tone it down a bit because it's probably not good. I mean, it's better than it was a few years ago.
I'm also trying on the days that I'm home because Kate, our friend, actually like challenged me to work on my nervous system a little bit when we found out I thought I was having like major issues with my thyroid. It was like 3 months of in and out of like the specialist, blah, 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 all to find out that I just have really heightened cortisol that is suppressing the function of my thyroid. It's suppressing my TSH. It's actually making me have hyperthyroidism, but just like it's all a cortisol issue. Anyway, she said 60 to 90 minutes of feet in the grass every day, which sounds like a lot. But then what I've been doing is putting Ledger in the carrier for his first nap. And I just like pace my backyard in the grass and like listen to worship music or like listen to a song, or Sunny's like, you know, jumping on the trampoline, which is going to be tough now that it's snowing. But that was another,
right now?
No, it was just wet on the ground, but I think it is this weekend more. So I don't know.
Whatever. It's
wherever you are.
I'm going to have Christmas music on.
If you can have your feet in the grass at all throughout the day, I think that's
interesting.
Helpful.
Yeah. Try that too.
In the county we live in, they've banned the use of pesticides in parks, which has been like one of the greatest gifts to this area. It's like parks anywhere near a school, anywhere near, I don't know, a library. There's a bunch of different things. So there's a park, you know, where Sunny had her birthday party. There's fields on both sides of the park. So that's another place I can put Ledger in his carrier. Sunny can play and I just like walk around the grass. So in bare feet.
Well, hopefully we have some warm days and I can do that. That's a good point. Tips or advice for a new exclusively breastfeeding, co-sleeping mama. 4 months in, baby is very attached to me, won't settle with anyone else. Welcome to my life.
Yeah, both
Feels
of our
like
lives.
I'm struggling to do anything for myself or have time with my 2-year-old. Is this normal? Your baby's 4 months old. Your baby is in the 4-month sleep regression, which between 4 months old and 7 to 8 months old is the hardest time. And your baby's, I would even venture to say, first 2 years of life. That is when their brain now has sleep cycles. Before this point, your baby was getting melatonin from your breast milk, and that's how they were sleeping. They were completely on your sleep cycle. Now their brain has developed sleep cycles, and just the same as you and I, they're 45 minutes long. The difference between your baby and you is that you are presumably in your 20s or 30s and you know how to link your sleep cycles. They have no idea.
Do we? I don't know.
This is all brand new and it's terrifying and it's big deal. Also, at this point in time, they realize that you are a separate human being than them and you can be separated, which is the saddest thing in the world. And it's just all very scary. It's a huge leap. If you don't have the Wonder Weeks app, I really love it for the first year. Past that, whatever. But for the first year, it really gives you insight and empathy into what your baby's going through. Totally normal. In my own personal experience, this is when I started co-sleeping with Noah. I would not use this time to try and separate yourself from your baby because I feel like you're going to make things worse if you've already been co-sleeping with them. You can write it out. Do you have advice for that? Because honestly, write it out. It does end in like 3 or 4 months.
So I was just talking to a mom about this last night at dinner. Actually, she and I have similar aged babies. It's her third and my second, and we were just talking about how co-sleeping is like, and nursing overnight, is like one of the most amazing, beautiful, best parts of motherhood for certain people. But that it's challenging and like, I don't know, you bring it up to other people and I feel like they just suggest like, oh, well, you don't have to do that. And it's like, okay, but I'm doing it for a reason. So I think your advice is actually good. Like, write it out. I think that there's seasons that are going to be hard and there's seasons that are not going to be hard. But you kind of just have to choose your hard, because I think sleep training for me is like the hardest thing I could ever imagine in my entire life, because not only is that detrimental, I think, to the psyche of a baby, it also is like separating mom and baby when obviously we just like have a pull to be connected. It's also doesn't feel reversible to me. So if that's something that you like choose to do, me personally would live with a lot of regret long term. So I consider all of these things. And then I think, okay, the hard that I'm choosing is the hard that I want to choose. And therefore, like, I can have empathy for myself on the days that like I'm not getting that much sleep, but I can also have the perspective to say, this is still what I choose, even on the hard days.
Yes.
Kind of like marriage,
Yes.
I don't know, like any decision you make where you're like, you just have to make up your mind and you have to choose it. And that doesn't mean that someday you're not going to be ready to separate, because you will. That day 100%, will come.
You'll know. But you're either going to be waking up to just latch your baby, or you're going to be walking into their room to feed them.
Yeah.
And rocking them to sleep, because
4 months
you're not,
for sure.
You're
Before
not night weaning at that point. So what I will tell you, and this is what I did during that time, and this is what I'm still doing to this day, because we've been in a little sleep loop with Lily that is exhausting. You need to focus on nutrition. When you're not sleeping, you need to be eating more calories need to be entering your body, and not empty calories. You need to be pumping your body full of superfoods, eggs, red meats, taking your supplements. I take a postnatal supplement or a prenatal supplement the entire time I'm breastfeeding. To this day, right now, I have not, I may have missed a day, but like I still take a prenatal supplement. And magnesium is a big one for me to function in the day, to not lose my crap, to try and stay not overstimulated. But the one supplement, did you ever buy that supplement I was telling you about? The one supplement that I will credit any like string of sanity I have left is Body Bio PC. It is not cheap, but it's a phospholipid supplement that you can take, and it basically, like, every cell in your body is made up of phospholipids, and this just is a supplement to replenish those for every cell in your body. But like the big difference, and what most people will tell you about this, is it like eliminates brain fog from things like lack of sleep. So bodybio.com, it's called Body Bio PC, Body Bio PC, and use the liquid form, not the capsule form. But that made literally all the difference for me. And I just got out of all the questions again. What changes at 1 year old to where they can have honey now? Okay. So their body can process honey to not get botulism, but it doesn't happen on their first birthday. It just happens around 1 year old. Like if your baby's 11 months old and you give them honey, it's fine. Also, lots of babies have had honey in their first year of life and they don't get botulism. So,
but also some of them do. I mean, yes. Ledger had diarrhea for 16 days.
Oh, sad. Oh,
because, you're right. And that's not even a symptom of botulism, but there was an issue clearly after Chase gave him honey smoked salmon. Yeah. So I don't know. Educate your husband.
Yeah.
I like walked down. I think Ledger was like 8 months old. and he was eating honey smoked salmon, and I was like, what are the ingredients in that?
Yeah.
And sure enough, there's honey in it. It's like, it could be baked into a product, like anything. So that is like a big no for me, but it's also a little bit daunting because once they have it, it could be up to like 30 days before they show symptoms.
And
So I was
botulism's like
stressed.
also called floppy baby syndrome. Like they can't, they just go limp, completely limp.
Scary.
Which
Like
is
it
not
is
good.
very scary. And so I feel like you just have to, it's one of those things. It's like eating sushi when you're pregnant, wouldn't you say? It's like you need to just do what you feel comfortable with. And I feel like the people who take the most risks as far as eating whatever they want when they're pregnant, feeding their baby, I feel like they haven't experienced a lot of like worst case scenarios. Whereas like I've experienced miscarriages. I'm not going to mess around and eat things I'm not supposed to when I'm pregnant. I'm like, I'm going to stray away from like the things that could.
Yeah. But with honey though, like that's actually a thing. Around
it is actually
1 year old,
I mean, that's
your body develops the ability to not be poisoned by honey.
So strange,
honey has the capability of containing botulism, which so does like canned food if it's not preserved correctly. So that's what that is.
And then your kid turns 2 and you're just like giving them spoonfuls of honey when they're sick. Like that's Sunny's favorite part of being sick is she just gets honey every hour by the spoonful.
What to do with your toddler while giving birth the next go around when you have never let anyone else watch them and don't trust anyone else.
Bring them.
You can.
If you have vaginal deliveries, I was talking to someone about this the other day. Like she wants to have a home birth with her third and she's like, I don't know what to do with my, and I'm like, have them there. And I don't want to just say that like not knowing how the other people's like kids, their temperament is, but I guess I'm like maybe projecting a bit because I would do anything for Sunny to watch me give birth. Anything.
I know. I would love that too. That's always been a dream of mine. And I feel like having Noah there would have helped me so much, but that didn't work out. I would also say if that's something that you're not open to, or if it's something that you're not comfortable with, then I would start having somebody come to be with them now. Like get them used to somebody. They can just come over for play dates. You can pay them to be the quote unquote nanny and you're all just playing in your living room. Just get them comfortable with somebody. That way you're not giving birth and worrying about if they're having a hard time.
And if you don't have family, because my first go-to would be like a cousin, an aunt, a friend, like I would start like if you're a part of a church, I would think like maybe somebody who works in the nursery. I don't know if you drop your kid off at the nursery. Some people do, some people don't. I don't know. I'm thinking of like an older woman. This is actually one of my biggest prayers still. Like I'm standing on this, that there's going to be a grandma that comes into my life, an older woman. Have I already talked about this on the podcast? I'm like so believing that she will.
What did you call her last time? It was a
spiritual grandmother, I think. I just want her to come into my life, have capacity for me and my children, and want to like teach me all these things about being a mom and help me with my kids and just like really love my babies. I don't know. We've talked about that a lot, but something I crave so much is just like having people in my life who genuinely love my kids. Like aren't just like, oh, that's a cute kid. It's like care and genuinely love them. Like I just feel like that is so rare. And maybe some people don't crave that. I don't know. It's just, I think about it probably more than
I have that craving too. And that was what was hard about moving away from my family was like, I needed to build that. And I did.
Yeah.
How to respond to people who subtly show that they don't agree with your parenting decisions and are passive aggressive about it.
I think my mom taught me this. The best way to deal with people who are passive aggressive is to show them that you're not the person to be passive aggressive with. Like, you just say, what do you mean by that? If someone's like, oh, I just like really can't stand when blah, 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 blah. And say it's like something that you've like been known to do. It's like, oh, what do you mean by that? I do that all the time. Just like make it awkward for them until they can learn to be a straight up person. Because I just think like, you know, you have to teach people how to treat you.
Yeah. No, I agree.
Sometimes.
I agree. Call it out. Say what you're, which is not something I'm super comfy with, but I've learned to do through Jesse.
And I also think that like, Amanda and I have talked about this. I think there's people who are safe and I think there's people who are not safe. And you have to kind of evaluate like, is this somebody that I could just straight up have a good conversation with and say like, hey, I've noticed that you're like taking these like moments to make me feel less than, or maybe you're not trying to do this, but this is how it's coming across. I don't know.
Also, like,
And
why
maybe
are
they can
you
respond.
around them? Maybe they're family and you have to be around them. But something that I do frequently is I just mute people on Instagram. If they're
Yeah.
being passive aggressive on their stories, mute.
I actually just did that. I just did that recently to somebody.
Good.
Because I'm over it.
Or
I'm over
unfollow
it.
them on
Yeah.
Facebook. Or, you know, you can, there's also like, I want to say there is this feature, but I'm not sure. Like when you share something on like your stories or on your Facebook or whatever, you can say share with everyone except, right? Can't you do that?
Yeah. I mean,
So,
that's
like-
because that's how you make a close friends list, right?
So like maybe you just need to distance yourself. I feel like I had a relationship in the last 2 years that I really felt this way about them. And then I distanced myself purposefully in person and online for a good year. And now everything's great. I think maybe we were both thinking that each other was being passive aggressive. And I know I wasn't. So maybe I'm going to give her the benefit of the doubt and say she wasn't. Because sometimes I do overthink things, you know. Me.
We both do.
I do that. So I will distance myself for my own mental health. And then it just got better. So maybe that's what you need to do.
Maybe. Yeah. Yeah. And I don't know. The last thing I'll say is, I'm going to forget. I was seeing who I had muted on my Instagram.
And you just look at the list of them.
I was just seeing if it was the person that I thought I muted. I also have been like removing people from my close friends list recently if like they're not somebody that's like either interacted with my stories or just like they're not in my life, because I'm like, I actually don't really want you seeing my kids anymore because like you're not really a part of our lives.
I feel like there's phases in that, because when I first did this, right, when I first removed my kids off Instagram, I'm like, oh, well, this is a baby picture of Noah, I'll leave it on. Or, oh, well, I've known them on Instagram for this long, I'll leave her in my friends list. Or, oh, this person, I know that they're not like taking my kids' pictures and showing them to other people, I'll leave them on my friends list. And now I'm a freaking savage. I just deleted. Also, I think Instagram unarchived some of my photos that I archived. You should check that, because I 100% think that they did. But I deleted everything. You can't find my kid's face, knock on wood, unless Instagram does that again. And I removed a crap ton of people on Facebook. I'm like, I don't know you. I don't want you seeing my kid's face.
I remember what I was going to say is that if, I'm going to forget it again. Oh, okay. Something I've done recently with the people in my life who were extremely passive aggressive that used to drive me nuts. I just like used to over explain myself in every decision that I would make, because I was like nervous, because I wanted to be accepted and I wanted people to see like why I make certain decisions that I do regarding my kids. And I've gotten to this point where I'm so direct and I don't care what people think, where I'm just like, yep, this is what we do. And like, that's what it is. Yeah. And I don't sit there and be like, well, like, I don't know, it's because like this, and I'm worried about this, and I don't know about, and I'm like, no, this is just what we do.
Yeah.
And it's just like, I don't know. I think when you just like let things roll off your shoulders a little bit too, and you just put people in their, like, mentally put people in their place. If they're being passive aggressive with you, it's like 10 times out of 10 an issue with them. Yeah. Like, they can't communicate clearly. They have an issue with the way that you're doing things, and why. Like, that leads to so many questions. Why do they care? I don't know. You could get into like envy issues or regret in their own lives. Like when you start diving into like the human psyche, it's 9 times, if not 10 times out of 10 has nothing to do with you. I think reminding myself of that helps me not care what people think, you know?
It's a really good point. Yeah. Very good point. Also, like, are you confident in your parenting decisions?
Yeah.
Then there you go.
That's totally.
Okay. This one's a tough one. Husband opened up to me about a porn addiction he's been dealing with since before we met. We've now been married for 4 years. I'm so broken by it, but I'm trying to be supportive and help him overcome this. I don't think he understands how hurt I am feeling. I feel like I've been cheated on. Advice, please. Prayers, please. All the prayers. We did an episode on porn. What were we talking about? It was our parenting without shame. I don't know if the whole episode was about porn, but I have a lot of opinions about porn. And the book we're reading right now, Anxious Generation, it's talking a lot about the social media effects on girls specifically over boys, right? Like, I'm almost done with it, and that's harping on all this research about how social media, how the internet made depression worse in girls because of social media, and social media just destroys our self-esteem, which I agree with. I also think that what it did for men and boys is create addictions via video games, via pornography.
Nothing makes me more angry in the entire world. I know that we've talked about abortion in this episode, and that is like obviously trumps anything that makes me angry. But porn makes me so sick and angry. And I watched this documentary one time about like the back end of porn where it's like, I don't remember what it was
just
called.
Sex trafficking and
yes,
drugged up girls.
The women that are working in those situations and how underage they are and how it's like literally they're acting. And a lot of times they're like being forced beyond their will to do things they're not comfortable with. And it's like, and then I don't know, there's just so many different layers to it. And I could totally understand why this girl feels like she's been cheated on. It's so violating. It's disgusting. It is like, I think almost 100% of men have seen porn at some point in their lives. And that is
well, and in our episode, we
me.
talked about the average age to see it's 8 years old. 8 years old. Where, and here, I want to also give credit where credit is due, because we called it a porn addiction and you feel like you've been cheated on. So I'm hoping that means that your husband feels ashamed of it and he's not saying, oh, it's just porn. Because my parents' generation, my parents are 51. So what are they? They're not boomers. They're Gen X or something. That's just, porn is just a cool thing that guys do. There's no shame in it. No shame in it. It's just like a big joke. I'm trying to think where sex ever fulfilling me. I think it's episode 13, dealing with purity culture. Do we talk about porn there? Teaching our consent. Why posting our children online? Sex and our bodies.
It's something that, okay, can I just like get on my high horse really quickly?
Yes, but before you do, it's either episode 12, 13, or 14. Sorry. That's all. That's all I've got for you. I'll try to do some more digging.
I think something that like I hear a lot of times, especially like in the Christian community, is almost this like enabling amongst men where it's like, oh, like it's so hard. It's such a hard battle. It's just like our cross to bear. It's our thorn in our flesh, all this stuff.
Really?
Yes. And I feel like I have a friend who recently just found out that her husband had been like physically actually cheating on her for a really long time. And I just feel like it's just such a lack of self-control. And I don't know if I should say this on our podcast. Let me think about it for a second.
Go ahead. I'm still looking to see, because we do talk about, we like actually talked about the effects porn has on the brain, how to talk to it with your kids, because it's not a question of if they get introduced to it, it's when. It
was probably in our, well, you just tell people to go watch the one about parenting without shame. It's in that series somewhere.
Yeah, it's.
Okay. This is a really hot take. You can take it or leave it. Clearly, I'm feeling a little spicy today on the podcast, and I will probably get backlash for that. That's fine. I can handle it. I don't know if I fully believe in addiction. I feel like when somebody lets sin overcome their lives and they choose it and they allow it all day, every day, and they let that cycle go on and continue for years and years and years and years, like, why would that not have taken root in your heart, in your mind, in your soul, in your body? It's like almost like a vine that like grew over your whole. And now it's going to take a lot more work to uproot it. Whereas if you had just like caught it like right when it happened and uprooted and repented and turned away and chose a better way, it wouldn't have been so hard. But I feel like we slap this label of like addiction onto things, and then it almost just like justifies people stumbling and stumbling and stumbling and stumbling.
I agree with that 100%.
And I know everybody is wired differently, and I'm not trying to come off as just like rude. I think I just like have seen porn destroy so many of my friends' relationships, and I just feel like the excuses all of the time make me so livid. It's like, it's actually not that hard to have self-control.
Yeah.
And I guess I'm like also coming from a stance of like, Chase has such a conviction about this. And I'm not trying to say like, oh, like we're better than anybody else. 'Cause that's not my heart ever. But I think the problem is getting to the point where you're convicted about it, you know, or you feel bad or you feel guilty or you feel like this is wrong. And I don't know how you get there for your husband, on behalf of your husband, like a lot of prayer.
I don't know. Yeah, a lot of prayer. I will also say like it has nothing to do with you, so don't be feeling like you have to go change your body or anything about yourself.
Yeah.
I would seek out counseling. I don't think that you can get through that easily without counseling, I would seek out a community of people who know what you're going through. I know like Fight the New Drug is a great account to follow on Instagram. And there are lots of porn recovery accounts as well
that
on
kingdom
Instagram.
that Kingdom Sexuality, were you the one that told me about them?
I don't know, but I know. I know.
There's an Instagram page about Kingdom Sexuality, and most of the time they just talk about like fun sex stuff, but like in the bounds of like Christianity.
Yeah,
some
and
of the stuff they
within
talk about on their
marriage.
podcast, I'm like, is this even allowed to be talked about? But like they do a really good job, I feel like, of keeping it. But I know they have a lot of episodes about one of them specifically like walking through this with her husband. Anyways, I guess I just want to like stand in solidarity. I don't even know if that's the right word. I just like want to empower this girl who's like reaching out to us, because it's not an unfair expectation to have on your husband. It's not impossible for them to overcome. They need self-control. They need boundaries. Don't feel like you can't sit there and say like, this is how, like, if you want to move forward in the marriage or if you want to move forward in the relationship, like sitting down and saying, this is how we will move forward.
There needs to be a change of
and
heart.
This is how I will feel comfortable, whether that be having different restrictions or different things put in place for a season for you to feel comfortable and safe moving forward. Totally okay to do.
And also prayers for you, seriously, because I'm so sorry. That would just derail me. We are not even halfway through these.
We can always have another episode
We
too.
need to. Favorite place to travel. I don't know if I have a favorite place to travel. Just beach. I'm going to sound like the Barbie movie, beach.
I love Europe so much. I want to move there.
I've never been. I'm not well traveled. I grew up very poor. So the little traveling I've done has been on my own dime in college, and then a little bit with Brady.
I feel like most of my traveling was like mission trips, and they aren't to places that I would necessarily want to go back. Like, very actually terrifying places.
But I was telling Brady, we were in the car. We were driving home. The kids had fallen asleep in the car, and I said, one day because we were talking about this year is Johnson Christmas. So we all take turns, whether we're at in-laws or whether we're in Colorado, and we all do it on the same year, obviously. Anyways, I said one day when we're old and our kids have their in-law holidays, and I'm so sad, please take me to a high-rise apartment in New York and let's have Christmas in New York City together.
Oh, so fun.
Can we just make that a tradition, like traveling every Christmas that our kids aren't with us?
My mom took us to New York City for Christmas for my 21st birthday, and we went ice skating and like did all the fun stuff.
Brady took me. We went around Thanksgiving one year when I was pregnant with Noah. We had just found out, and we were there technically for a conference, but he like extended the trip so we could go stay in New York City. It was so much fun. Anything else on that one? That was a simple.
No, I just love Europe so much.
Favorite thing about the way you parent? That's a wide open question. Let's keep it short so we can keep getting to some questions here.
My favorite thing about the way I parent is that I can truly credit all my decisions to the Holy Spirit.
Oh, I love that. Well, I can't top that answer.
Yes, you can. You don't have to top it. What's your favorite part?
My favorite part is, and I said it last episode, that Noah and I really speak our relationship out loud. So all day long, it's just back and forth of how we're feeling. Yeah. And I don't know. I don't feel like I was able to do that as a kid. So that's probably my favorite part about parenting. What's your ratio of good and bad days? I don't know if I have an all good or an all bad day. Do you? Like there are bad parts of a good day.
I almost feel like I go through like the last week I've had like really bad days.
Yeah, but you
all
have
of the bad days in a row.
A lot going on.
But then I also have some weeks where I'm like, I'm on like such a high. Like I don't know if it goes back and forth as much as it goes through like seasons where I'm like not doing well for a few weeks or even a few months, and then I'm like doing really well for a few weeks or a few months. And I will say like one of my biggest weaknesses as a human is I'm very affected by my circumstances. And I think if I want to grow being a Christian in my faith, I want to be able to like stand on my faith even when it feels like things are being taken or falling away, because I think I get very shaken, and I know we shouldn't get so shaken, but if I get bad news or I'm in a bad season or whatever, I like isolate myself and I cancel my plans and I stay in my home and we don't do like the things we're supposed to do, and it gets really like sad. Yeah. And I don't even know if my kids necessarily know. I just
then you're doing
very
a good job.
internal.
If they don't know, then you're doing a good job.
Yeah.
I feel like I grew up in a house where my mom suffered from severe depression. And so I don't think I allow myself to have bad days, if that makes sense. It's probably why I don't sit down either. Again, I just operate in trauma. But no, seriously, I think that something that got me out of my small town, that got me to be the first person to graduate high school and then go on to get a degree, the first person to kind of get out of the trauma, was my ability to not have a bad day. I have bad moments. I'm not saying that every second of my day is glorious, because it's far from that. But at the end of every day, barring something extreme, I can easily pull out all of the good moments. And that's something I'm really trying to instill in my children, because I feel like that's a strength that I have. And I can also twist a situation, most situations, not all situations, but I can twist most situations in a good light and be optimistic about things. I think that was like a survival mechanism, but I think it's a strength.
Yeah, totally.
So I don't know if I would say I have good bad day ratios. I would just say there are bad moments, but your day is really what you make it. If not TMI, thoughts on circumcising. I really didn't want to with my first, but my husband did. We circumcised Noah, but I think it's mostly because he was our first kid and I didn't know much about it. And I just said, you have the penis, you decide. I'm like, I don't know. And I will say, when Noah circumcised, he slept through it. Brady was right there with him. You know, I had a cesarean, so I was in the room. He never had a problem with it. Like, so in my head, it never was like something I had to think about being a problem until I got pregnant with Lily. And then I was just kind of praying that it was a girl, because I didn't want to have to decide whether I was going to do that to my baby again, and he was going to look different than his brother, or it was like, it felt very hard. So I sympathize with you now. I didn't have to make the choice.
I know. Yeah. I don't know. It never felt right to me, but I did like minute amount of research on it. In my circle, we have you heard of hemophilia?
Yeah.
So that runs in my family, and so it's very like normal in my entire bloodline to not circumcise, because it just was one of those things you don't necessarily know if your kid has it at the time of birth, and it's like a very scary thing to deal with. And so it was just kind of like it just like wasn't really a thing. But even just like, I think from like a biblical standpoint, which is I think what a lot of people stand on, Chase had a lot of like really, really interesting points against circumcision that he pulled straight from scripture, which I really appreciated. And I'm happy to like get those from him if anybody wants, because I kind of left it in his hands. I gave my opinion. And I was like, I feel like this is purely cosmetic. I don't feel great about it.
It is cosmetic.
And I think there's Christians who justify, like I said, by certain scriptural references.
But in scripture, circumcising was only cutting off a piece. It was not completely cutting off the entire foreskin. It was like a small piece of the foreskin to differentiate yourself. It was not completely. I think it is just cosmetic, and it's just going to be something you either do or you don't.
Yeah. And one of my friends like tried to scare me into like, oh, it can get infected and it's like all these things and you have to clean it and it's all this upkeep and all this stuff. And I think like I am so like, I don't like the word crunchy. I'm like, I just so believe in the original design that like God created us. And I'm like, I don't think he just like made some like giant inherent mistake in how he originally created us, to the point where like we're going to get like septic and die if we don't cut a part of our body off when we're born.
It's actually protective. Yeah. First of all, it would be like cutting off our labia.
Yeah.
What's the point of that? If it was cosmetically, like everybody did it, whatever, but it's not.
I don't know how that would look. Actually, that would be a really interesting experiment.
I would, just like, what's your heart say about it? Did you know that
people get like, what are they called? Labia something.
Yes. Like rejuvenation.
Yeah, vaginal something like that, where they like cut. So I saw this picture. It wasn't a real like vagina, but it was like the like drawings, because this girl that I follow, she's like, I'm getting this labia surgery done, and I'm just gonna draw a picture of like what mine looks like and versus like what it's supposed to look like. And she was telling, like, showing how like far down like things hang almost.
Well,
and
I mean,
she has to like
babies
pull it. Does it stretch though?
I don't know. We've never done it. So
No,
we
mine
can't
looks.
tell.
I will say, I got so mad at the nurse who like wheeled me back for Sunny's C-section because she's like, your vagina has to stay intact, and I was like, I'm gonna punch you in the
Yeah, that's not what I care. Don't say it, Jesse.
I was so mad at her. I was like, clearly, I don't care. Like,
Yes.
oh yeah, yay, my vagina. Like,
That thing that I never
in
look
lieu
at,
of
that my husband's gonna
major
love no matter
surgery.
what.
But I will say it looks the exact same as it did like before I had
Yeah.
babies.
Yeah.
But I didn't know what that
I
was. That people would
imagine-
like remove part of their labia to make it like smaller.
Well, I imagine that when you have babies vaginally, that stretches. Also, as you get older, connective tissue deteriorates, and I'm sure everything that can hang will hang.
Yeah, she said she had to like tuck it in and up like into her like underwear. Otherwise, it would like rub against her thighs.
Okay, next question. I don't know why we started talking about labia.
I don't either.
Thoughts on rear facing for as long as possible with the continuous comments, but his legs are so long. Do you want him to be alive when you get into a car accident? Like, no, this makes me so mad when people say
So
their
silly.
legs are too long. If your
Yeah.
baby is under 50 pounds, keep them facing backwards. Fold their legs. There are go follow Safe in the Seat because she gives really good stats on this. But the amount of broken legs that happen from a severe car accident in a properly installed car seat, none. The amount of deaths that can happen and severe whiplash and broken bones and head trauma that can happen if you turn your baby around too soon is out of this world, astronomical. So they'll be fine. Don't worry about what other people are saying to you.
I agree with that 100,000%.
I just texted Jesse because Noah, I was like looking in the back seat, and Noah's head is getting taller than his car seat, which means he's growing out of his 5-point harness and he needs a booster. Which
I can't believe that. I can't believe that.
feels really bad for me.
So sad.
Jesse, can you drop a home organization guide? I'd spend money to purchase it, please. I love you guys. That's all. Describe your parenting.
A home organization guide?
Yeah.
How would I even do that?
I don't know. Go look at somebody else's and see how they did it, and then you can get an idea.
I'm actually kind of interested in doing that.
Do that. Describe your parenting in one word.
Intentional.
Ooh, I love that.
Thank you.
I'm going to say the same thing.
I would agree. I think
Yeah.
we're both really intentional.
I think we both put a lot of thought into, maybe a lot of thought into every little detail of our lives. We talked about Halloween. What do you do when you feel like you're being taken advantage of as a mother and wife? Like your husband doesn't help clean at all, and you constantly serve him and take care of the kids and the animals, and he feels like because he works outside of the house, he works harder than me. I never do enough.
Puke at that.
Well, but also stop comparing. That is a hard boundary that Brady and I have. We cannot compare our jobs. They are not comparable. So, and also I'm allowed to be tired even though he's had a long day. He's allowed to be tired even though I've had a long day. We're allowed to complain about our jobs, but not make it a competition. That's like a hard boundary in my house. Now to get to the rest of your question, but seriously, don't make your guys' jobs a fighting point.
Also, lazy husbands make me so mad.
Yes. If your husband's lazy, not cool.
You should not be doing everything all of the time. You still own your home together. You still have kids together. Yes, he gets to go to work every day or has to, however he chooses to view that is on him. But he also has to still come home and be a part of his family. He doesn't just
Brady
get to.
and I see it is when Brady's out of the house, his job is 100% on him. And when he's out of the house, my job is 100% on me, right? We have 100% of our effort is going into our days. But when we're home as a family, it's 50-50, babe.
Yeah, no one just gets to kick their feet up and check out.
No,
That's
you're
just,
parents. You're adults.
I could not imagine. I so understand her frustration.
Yeah.
I would be losing my mind.
I would too. Yeah.
Chase made dinner tonight. We take off. I wanted to go to a workout class. He made dinner. He does the dishes in our home. I clean the rest of the house. He helps with bedtime. I walk the dogs every night. He comes home from work at 5:00. I usually try to have dinner ready if I don't have plans. We eat. I take the dogs on a hike. He gets the kids ready for bed. He starts bedtime. I usually have to bathe the dogs because they're all disgusting after their walk. And then we like do the rest of bedtime together. But I feel like, and I'm not saying that, once again, I hope that I'm coming across well today. I feel like I'm probably not, but I'm not saying that to be like, this is the way to do things. I'm saying that because how on earth would one person be able to do all of that? Mm-hmm. Like if you have a husband in the home, he should be working just as much as you are. He doesn't.
Yeah, when you guys are home, it's 50-50.
Yeah.
Everything's 50-50.
I don't know. I don't even know what you would say to him other than like,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, this isn't the norm.
Yeah.
This is like,
why would it be fair for me to have to give 100% effort 24 hours a day, 7 days a week?
Mm-hmm.
Why?
And you get to check out.
And you get to do 0.
Mm-hmm.
What is fair is that we both give 100% effort. And then on the times we're home together, it's labeled down to 50. I mean, it's brought back down to 50.
And I also like, maybe this is petty. I would not be serving him if that's how he's treating you. I would not be like serving him his dinner. I would not be doing his laundry. I would like, if you're feeling burnt out and you've had this conversation, and maybe this is petty, but like, I would just stop doing those things. Like let him maybe have a minute to see how much you do. And if it doesn't get done, how that might affect his life. But like, if I don't know, if your words are not landing with him, then just like try to give yourself a break throughout the day. And maybe that will start to affect him and impact him because maybe his dinner's not ready and his laundry's not done and like the bed is, whatever. And it's like, yeah, because I need a break too.
Yeah.
Take your kids nap time and have a second coffee and sit on your back porch and read a book instead of like busting your butt to prep 100%. Dinner.
If he's not going to give you rest when he gets home, you need to find your rest somewhere else.
You need to take care of yourself.
Also, like maybe this is like a deeply inground thing from his family and you should see a therapist if he will.
Oh yeah. It might be a family of origin thing too. Yeah. Like maybe that's how he was raised and that's how he saw patterns in his home and he needs to just be told like, that's not normal.
We have 4 more questions and we're at an hour.
That's up to you. You want to pick a couple of them?
Okay. How do you find the time to do projects in your home to make it feel like ours? I used to love to take time to cultivate our home pre-kiddos. Now with 2 under 2, I'm trying to figure out how I can make time to do that again. 2 under 2 is hard. 2 under 2, you might have to find different ways to make your house feel like maybe it's not a full-on freaking project where you and your husband both have to be doing something. Maybe like my bathroom downstairs, Brady got sick of doing things on the weekends for a while, which I respect because he works all week and I don't want to do them. So we redid our bathroom, but all I did was order some hardware on Amazon. I can put that in myself while the kids are napping, and I hung pictures and I ordered a new rug and stuff, like completely changed the whole room. So maybe with 2 under 2, doing full house renos is not.
I would ask yourself, like, do you want to be doing these things or do you feel like you need to be doing these things? Yeah. Because
like if you took a break from Instagram or Pinterest, would you still be wanting to do it?
Personally, the projects I do at my house are my rest. Mm-hmm. It is like my canvas. It's like I've always been an artist, and like whether that be painting or like creating with my hands or writing, it's something that brings my soul to life. It's so life-giving. And I do feel like I can do it amongst the presence of my kids. Mm-hmm. I don't feel like they need to be in another room. Like they might be coloring or Ledger might be napping and I'm wallpapering a wall, or I'm painting a baseboard or I'm, decorating something or, creating like a board full of like what I want to do with my next room. But then also Chase and I have had conversations where it's like, hey, like, maybe we started this and we don't have the capacity for it right now. Like we could hire somebody, like let's look and see what it costs for someone else to hang all this up here and then we can paint it ourselves. Or I'm trying to think, we had somebody come in and build us a fireplace mantle, stuff like that, where it's like decide what is worth doing yourself. First of all, decide if you even want to be doing this or if you feel like you need to be doing it. Yeah, what can you do yourself? What could you hire out? And then also like, don't put a timeline on it. Like when we moved in and we started on Sunny's room and Chase hung the beadboard, and then I think I took like almost 2 weeks to paint her room, and it was just like halfway down. But I was just like, oh, when I get a minute, I'm just going to paint this. And when I feel like I want to, I will. But like, you didn't get out of that mindset of like, oh, we need to get this done in a weekend. Cause like, what if you don't? What if it's just like, what if it takes you a month? Who cares? It's a work in progress, and it's supposed to be fun.
I agree with that. If it's not fun, then now's not the time to do it.
But all we see is like these reels where it's like overnight. It's like, oh, let me close this door, open it, and it's totally redone. And it's like, I know. But what if it takes you a few months and it's fun and your kid gets to help
that
you
person a few months too, but you're just seeing the before and after. Yeah. Yeah. I think social media really has affected our brains and our expectations of what real life looks like, and it's not real life. So
Yeah.
maybe just put Pinterest and Instagram away for a couple of weeks and then talk about what you really want to do in your home.
And little improvements can make a big difference. And we can have like a whole episode about this, but like you said, like I redid all of the cabinet handles in my kitchen.
Makes a huge
And I
difference.
just ordered them on Amazon. First of all, it was like $12 for a box of them. I think I needed like 3 boxes of them or something. And it completely changed the vibe of my kitchen. But it was like I had a podcast in. I was also making dinner, and it's like a couple screws here, a couple screws. And it's like, I don't know. My best advice would just be to take your time and don't let it stress you out.
Yeah.
Who cares if it takes forever?
Do you let your kids watch Miss Rachel? I think she's only on YouTube, so no, because Noah doesn't watch YouTube. That's my only answer for that.
I don't think that that's a regular part of our routines. Like right now, we watch Minnow Rock and Roll Bible.
I actually saw something about Miss Rachel. I don't know why I whispered that. I saw something. You know how like Cocomelon got canceled? Well, I say got canceled, but I bet a lot of people still show their kids Cocomelon because it was Bright Colors one and changing scenes every 3 seconds to light up their brain. And Miss Rachel's doing the same thing with these graphics on her screen. And I saw this like it was like a reel of this man breaking down like why you shouldn't. But I've never watched Miss Rachel, so please don't like take that for anything. My reason why we don't watch Miss Rachel is because she's only on YouTube. Noah watches Blippi, not anymore. He went through a Blippi phase, and Blippi was on Happy Kids. Because I just have this, and I don't know if it's because of Noah and something he's going to need in the future. I just have this feeling of this hard wall around YouTube. But I do not allow it in my house.
Yeah, we watch like Minnow Rock and Roll or Laugh and Grow Bible. I don't know why I call it Rock and Roll.
Rock and Roll Bible. Sounds fun.
It actually sounds like they're saying that when they like do their whole intro. And then Clifford, all the Clifford episodes are on YouTube. Although someone told me today that they're on somewhere Paramount, I think she said.
Oh,
so
good.
I need to check that out.
That's good.
Because they're like the very old school Clifford episodes, and I love those.
Aww.
We were at the vet for like an hour last week with both of my kids. I was at the vet with both of my kids, and I turned on a vet episode of Miss Rachel while we were at the vet to try to make it like a homeschool situation, because it was like when we were supposed to be doing school.
Anything's homeschooling.
And it was actually really sweet because like the vet tech was like kind of going along with it and like, oh, this is what she's talking about, you know? So I don't know, for little circumstances like that, I did find a lady who's like African American on YouTube, and she kind of does something similar, and she's a Christian.
Oh, fun.
And so I really appreciate her. I need to figure out what her name is, but we had like a fall themed week last week with homeschool, and we were collecting leaves and doing all these fun things, and I found an episode that she had. I don't know her name. I think she's relatively new, but I really liked her.
Do you know what thought just popped into my head was, who's governing Miss Rachel? Does she have because she's probably just posting YouTube videos. She can do or say whatever she wants. Who's governing that? That freaks me out. At least I know, like, if I pop on,
I actually think Miss Rachel said she's a Christian.
But that can be loosely translated into a lot of different ways. If you're watching something and it's like made by CBS, like, you know that there are certain standards that they're not going to go outside of, right? Who does that for Miss Rachel? Nobody. That freaks me out. That's why YouTube freaks me out, because there's no governing body saying what you can and cannot post, what you can and cannot say, what ads can and cannot pop up. Do you know what I mean?
Yep.
And I don't want to sit there and vet every one of my kids' shows.
Oh, her name is Miss Monica. Circle Time with Miss Monica. I love her. She was so sweet. But Amanda has a point about YouTube. The commercials are very concerning.
Yeah. Brady pays for
I
ad
wouldn't
free,
leave.
So maybe that's an option.
And I wouldn't leave your kids watching something on YouTube.
Yeah. Anything. Like
you know how you can like pop something on Netflix and you could walk away?
Yes.
Or
that's
Disney.
what I mean. Like, there's no governing body over people posting on YouTube.
I've seen some pretty horrific commercials on YouTube.
Yeah.
On children's
also, like,
movies and videos.
We have a YouTube channel. I could easily just take off my shirt right now. Nobody would say anything. I mean, people would say something. Do you know what I mean, though? Like, there's nobody controlling what I'm doing and posting on YouTube.
Really? So there's things that won't get taken down or anything like that?
No. I'm just a human being who can do what I want, say what I want to your kids, show them whatever I want to, and it's just
Or even just be super subliminal about all of that.
Exactly. It scares me. What do you do when your spouse doesn't see eye to eye with your parenting styles or sleep style? He wants to do it he wants to do he wants to do cry it out is what I'm going to assume they're saying there. I just can't. It physically hurts me and my heart and I can't do it.
Then don't.
Brady and I have an understanding that we both have God-given intuition over our kids, but I feel like mothers have more. I don't know. Is that fair to say? I do feel like we are more in tune with our children's needs, hormonally, like spiritually,
I
physically.
think you and I are in our own little bubble that we agree on this with our husbands. Like there's a mutual understanding amongst our husbands, and maybe it's because they're entrepreneurs and they have so much decision-making power in our families. Like they have so much power that I don't think they're grasping at it when it comes to parenting. I think that there's like a very lovely, like, okay, I trust you.
Yeah, that is very true.
It feels that way, but I could also see where that might get out of whack if there's a husband going to work and he's like being told all day what to do, and then he comes home and his wife is trying to do the same. Like there might be this true. like no, I want to have a say, Okay. Whereas like our husbands run their own business and they're telling 6 other employees all day what to do, and they come home and we have an idea and they're probably feeling a little bit. It's not a power struggle.
Yeah, that's so true. That's a great point.
Thank you. It just came to me.
Jesse's so insightful right now. No, that's a very good point. But you say it physically hurts my heart and I can't do it, then don't do it. You stand your ground.
Yeah.
I feel like there are going to be battles that are going to be worth fighting for. And if this is one of those, then you fight the battle.
And maybe get to the heart issue. Like, why is he pushing for that so hard? Why does it affect you so much? Because I think it can get into this like, well, I want this. But like, if you could get to like each other's hearts, like, why is this such a big deal to you?
Yeah.
That's language Chase and I have been trying to use with each other of like, I can tell that this is a really big deal to you. Can you tell me a little bit more about why?
Yeah.
Because sometimes like you get really like worked up about something and you don't even know why until you pause and you're like, oh, it was because X, Y, and Z,
Yeah.
And then you become more human to the other person.
That's so true. Yeah. You're on the same team also.
Yeah.
I would say I think I mentioned in one of our episodes, that reel I saw where they're like at the airport and we're like, they wake up in the morning and they say, we're on the same team. We're on the same team.
Yeah.
And that just like has stuck with me so hard because you are on the same team. And that book you bought me for my birthday, and like the introduction, she has this paragraph and I have it like highlighted and I sent a picture of it to Brady and it said like, on the hardest days, don't forget that it is not you against your kids or you against your husband, because Satan wants to tear down the family. His whole goal here is to ruin the family. It's you and your kids, you and your husband against Satan.
Yeah.
So you're on the same team, guys. Act like it. You know what I mean? Like
totally.
You both love your child and you want your child to thrive and you want your marriage to thrive. You want your family to thrive. So like, breathe. We want the same thing. Let's work from here,
And then like simultaneously, like I think that was like such a good point. And I feel like keeping, and you already said this, but like stand your ground in a way that's like, I think sometimes if something really matters to you and you end up compromising fully, there's so much resentment that takes root towards your spouse. Like I think being on guard against resentment of like, okay, like being aware of where you can compromise and where you're like, I feel like this is a big enough deal to me that if like you force me to completely roll over and give this up, I'm going to really deal with resentment issues, like I think that's, I don't know.
You can also like, I want to say compromise, but you can also like come to a solution. Like, okay, if it's because he's craving time together, can you put your baby in bed and roll away and spend time with your husband? If it's because your husband just isn't sleeping, can you and your baby go into the room after you and your husband have spent time together? Maybe you and your baby go sleep in a room for a bit. You know what I mean? Like, is there like something different than
like everything is a season? I just feel like everything is a season. I feel like, I don't know, you feel like when you're in the moment, it's going to last forever. And then you look back and the amount of time that we're going to have like solid one-on-one time sleeping together without children is going to be so exponentially like gigantic compared to like where we're at right now with like kids in our bed. But I also feel like in any disagreement in marriage, it's really good to like, we had a therapist tell us one time to bend more towards the person who it feels like it's affecting more. Like if you're in the midst of like a really hardcore disagreement, like kind of try to assess like who seems to be more affected by this decision. And usually there's one person who it's more just like a power struggle, and the other person's like gravely upset and they're like distressed, like how this mom is sounding, like I'm losing sleep, I feel sick to my stomach, you know. And then the other one, sometimes it's more of just like a pride issue, and I'm not like labeling that in this situation, but it's a good thing to like assess, you know. Like, is this pride or is this like genuinely affecting me?
No, I love that. That's a great point. I feel like we already answered this question. My husband doesn't help around the house.
I know, that's so upsetting.
What do you do when you feel like as a mother and wife you're doing everything? Yeah, we already talked about that. I'm sorry. I don't know.
Just, I feel like you just need to like your husband needs to step it up, and if he doesn't, like we said, you need to take care of yourself, and if that starts to affect him, then that starts to affect him.
Yeah. Okay. Do you want to talk about our book next time? Because we're having our book club this weekend, and we told the masses we were going to do an episode on the book.
Sure.
Okay.
I did ask Jetta if she wanted to come up with some questions, because I know she loves this book so much.
I'm enjoying it.
My brain hasn't been there with it.
That's okay.
Yeah.
I've had lots of books like that.
Yeah, you have. I know we're switching off, and like you're really into this book, and I'm like,
I don't know if I'm
stressed.
really into it, but I'm like listening to it. I'm like, yeah.
Yeah.
I see
but
that.
then it's like, okay, but what? That's how I feel.
He's giving the what? Where are you at in the book?
I still have, let me look. Oh my gosh, Chase just sent me such an inappropriate text. I cannot believe I just opened that. Okay, yeah, I still have 6 hours and 40 minutes left.
Okay. Well,
And how long is the book?
It's really long.
I'm on chapter 5 of 12.
Yeah, it's pretty long.
I do see what parents can do now. Would love to get to that section. Chapter 12, what parents can do now.
Oh, yes.
I told Amanda, I just have this like this thing about labels that really stress me out and make me angry. And I just think we like over label our children. We over label everything.
I don't feel like the intent is to label, though.
I don't think the intention is there either, but I'm just saying, I think that was my initial turn off. Like if you're like on a first date and somebody says something where you're just like, why did you say the one thing that like, you know, would just like make me really mad at you?
Sourpuss for
it did. I was like, I would never in my wildest dreams label an entire generation as anxious. And I think that is like, that made me mad.
But the premise of the book, here's the premise of the book. The premise of the book is Gen Z was a giant experiment, not to like their parents' knowledge or their knowledge, but it was like the time where all of these things leading up that had nothing to do with the internet, like it was a lot of these other things leading up to parents overprotecting kids in the real world.
Yeah.
And then bam, as we're overprotecting them in the real world, we're just letting them wild west on the internet. And it's talking about like we've been watching out the last 20 years in real time how this has affected this entire generation of people, and we have all this data. Here's what it did to them. And the thing that I do feel like sometimes it's kind of like, but where was the intention? Because the intention wasn't to do this to these people. But it is nice to see like, this is what happens if you go down this path. To me, that's what
I also feel like it's just the epitome of the juxtaposition of being a millennial, because we did have such a precious childhood in the sense that we were offline. And we've been the generation who has watched transform into something, and we're like desperately trying to get our own childhoods back to provide that for our children. And I think it's just like the culmination of all of that in a book, and to hear all the statistics and to know at the same time, like we're not going backwards and we can't. That is really, and to hear about like, you know, being on, like you think about your kids and it's like, okay, you know, boys with the pornography stuff and girls with the eating disorders and the suicide and I'm like, oh my gosh, like this is already something that's in my brain, I think.
So it's just uncomfy for you.
It feels like it's just kind of like scratching all of those same fears I already live with every day, where I'm like, yeah, I look at Ledger every day and I like beg the Lord that he could just be protected in his heart and in his mind and in his spirit and his purity about like not being exposed to that kind of stuff at a friend's house when he's 8 years old.
Well, don't get too far into it. Let's talk about it either next time, or we'll talk about holidays next time and Anxious Generation next. So one of the next 2 episodes. That's what
we do have actually, we could record about both of those things.
All right. We will see you guys next week. Happy Halloween. Well, it's after Halloween when you hear this, so happy election week. May God help us.
Thank you for listening, and remember that you were chosen to be the mother of your children.
And you are exactly where you need to be.
See you next week.